glasses because they look.
All right, guys, we're gonna get started. So, thank you first off to everyone who attended our NRB event this past Thursday. It was really, really great. All of the first years who attended signed up, interested in student government. Erin and I are contacting them across the next few days. Hopefully, we'll see a few of them running for office. Now, you probably see a lot of this new free stuff in front of you, your binders, etc. Hold off on that. We will be explaining it come Tina's part of the agenda. Now, before we get to our guest speaker today, Morgan Schweitzer, our parliamentarian, has a brief presentation on parliamentary procedure just to remind you all of the rules of order and let you know of a couple additional pieces of Robert's rules that she's going to be implementing. Take it away.
Give me 1 second as I just...
Are you seconding this one?
Yeah.
Alright, I'll say it. Can you pass this down?
Yep.
Is there an
It's a
attendance
motion,
sheet?
just pass it.
Does anyone not have the Robert's Rules of Order pamphlet?
Is there an attendance sheet or not?
Tina's taking care of it.
Oh.
Efficiency.
All right, guys, bring your attention to the projector.
Okay, so pretty much today what I'm going to be covering is the basics behind Robert's Rules of Order, making sure that we know the process going in because later on the process of Senate, we're going to be using these things probably a lot more. So for today, I'm going to be covering motions, amending motions, discussion, voting, and dissent. Dissent is kind of a new thing that a lot of you will be getting used to. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it, and it really just makes sure that everyone's always heard. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so for motions, you're going to be moving to motions. So every single time you make a motion, you're going to be saying, I move to, and then you're going to be very detailed in the manner that you're going to be saying. So for example, you're going to be saying the time, the location, who's involved, and really anything. It has to be very, very specific, or else it's not going to count because it's not an overall arching theme. It has to be very specific, or else really it's not going to work out in the end in any of our favors. Then our main topics, our main motion topics are the main motion, subsidiary motions, which are amendments, privileged motions, and parliamentary inquiry. The last one is probably something that we're all going to be using. That's pretty much just going to say, if you're confused, just say you're confused and we'll walk you through it, because this is a learning curve. Okay. So for amending a motion, amendments are motions. They're voted on before the main motion. So a main motion is something that Kyle and the rest of us have going into the meeting and that we are going to be voting on during the meeting, and amendments are additions to that. If it's a friendly amendment, then it is adopted immediately. If it's not friendly, then we have to go into discussion, and then from there we're going to be voting on that if it's accepted to be voted on. And then our next thing is discussion. So discussion has to be very specific to the topic at hand. It can't be off on a side tangent. It has to be attached to what we are discussing at that moment in time. Out of order is something I'm going to be saying, or Kyle, about if something is off topic. So you might hear out of order or point of order. That's pretty much saying, like, guys, we need to get back on topic. Then expansion, so pretty much after every single motion that's going to happen is expansion, which is where you explain what's happening with the motion and why you want this to happen. Speaking, you're going to be, whenever you're speaking about a motion, it's directed towards the floor, so that means all of us, and you can even direct it at the Grand Marshal Kyle about anything. It's not going to be kind of banter back and forth because that's improper and we want to keep good feelings between everyone. Okay, and then only presenters can respond directly to questions, otherwise no back and forth. Okay. And then voting, it's gonna be called to question, pretty much saying, when you call the question, it just goes directly to vote, unless there's a dissent, and I will cover that in a moment. But if you make a motion, if you motion to vote, then from there, then you would vote. Does anyone have any questions about that? One, you go directly into voting, the other one, you have to vote to vote. So those are the two differences. Okay, next slide. Okay, dissent.
You have one question.
Oh, right on over here.
So would there be a time that you have to use one or the other specifically?
No,
or-
you can do, it's two options. I personally enjoy the call to question because it's just faster.
I'll give a clarification on that as well. Calling the question is supposed to be used if discussion is going in a circle or if it's stagnating, as in specifically if it's being unproductive. Motion to vote is a bit more flexible because there's an actual vote that comes into play. Does that make sense? So motion to vote is kind of appropriate to be called at any time. Calling the question is really used when you feel discussion is dead.
Okay. And then for dissent is when someone opposes the motion that's on the floor. So pretty much dissent means you do not agree with it, or you feel like you need to kind of roll back a little bit. So for a dissent, you're going to be it must be seconded by another person, so someone has to agree with you on the dissent. Then there will need to be 2 people for the dissent and 2 people against the dissent. And you hear both sides, and then you vote on whether or not you accept moving on, or if you need to take back the motion that was just made. So the dissent can cancel out any motion that is put on the floor. Okay, I think I should probably explain that or give an example. So Kyle, could you help me on that?
So the way dissent is primarily used for motions like calling the question that don't require a formal vote. Any senator, once question is called, any senator can declare that they dissent, or Morgan or I will ask, is there any dissent? If dissent is raised, somebody has to second dissent as if it was a motion. So say Paul calls the question, Shoshana says, I dissent. We would need someone to second Shoshana's dissent before the dissent proceeds. If no one seconds, the dissent doesn't take effect. If somebody does second, Shoshana and her seconder would be the dissenting voices and would speak towards the dissent. I would then ask if anyone would like to speak in favor of the motion. We would allow up to 2 people to speak in favor. At the end, the dissent is voted on. Does that make sense? It's a little complicated, but you'll get used to it pretty quickly. The idea is that motions that don't require a formal vote can still allow minority voices to be heard and considered via the dissent. Okay?
And we'll walk you through it, so it's a slow process, but after a while it will help speed up things, and it will make sure that everyone in this room will be always heard for their opinion and anything after it. I recognize?
Are you going to do anything to prevent dissent from just trolling and just train wrecking meetings? Because I know in some other
Yes.
places that I've been at, with dissent, some people just use it effectively to filibuster without a formal filibuster. So.
Right. What we can do for that is whether or not we can decide to recognize the dissent.
Okay.
So every single thing that happens through their Kyle can decide whether or not to recognize it.
Dissent qualifies as a subsidiary motion, more or less. I can call it out of order if it's being used in an appropriate manner.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
One last point before we move on. Main motions have previously only been submitted to the GM before meetings. However, two senators can sign off on a main motion during a meeting and pass it to the parliamentarian. Morgan's going to have motion templates available for you to use if you feel like proposing a main motion during a meeting. So if any of you want to raise a question, sign off on one of these templates, pass it down to Morgan or myself, and I will add it to the agenda in the appropriate spot. Make sense? Motions can be raised from the floor as long as it's by senators. All right, so thank you for the presentation, Morgan. With that, I would like to move to our guest speaker, Alex De Silva, Director of Auxiliary Parking and Transportation. Before we begin, a little background. As many of you may know, over the summer, Hospitality Services was considering changes to the way swipes can be processed on campus. Following some expressed student concern and a phone conversation between De Silva and myself, we've agreed to, well, De Silva has decided to hold off on any such changes for at least a year. He is here today graciously to give us the opportunity to discuss these changes and offer our voices and opinions. So keep things courteous, be respectful. If any of you are out of line during the discussion, you will be cut off. Remember that De Silva is here as our guest and a negotiating partner. Take it away.
As Kyle and I spoke earlier in the week, I wanted to keep this format very informal. I actually wanted to be an active listener to the Student Senate, which is an extension of our student body. So, as Kyle pointed out, our partner, Sodexo, which operates our dining program, contemplated some changes to our meal gas program. Right now, we have a system that is very liberal, okay, and quite unusual nationwide. So we contemplated putting together what we refer to a guest pass feature as part of our meal plan program. So in essence, we wanted to have a little bit more control about how many and who each meal plan holder brings into our dining facilities. If you take a scan of peer institutions, it's not unlike and unusual for you to see an allotment of meal passes per meal plan chosen within a campus. One example could be the unlimited meal plan would carry an allotment of 10 meal passes per semester. You could bring in your friends, families, faculty members into our dining facilities with you, okay? Literally, if you scan our peer institutions, for the most part, that's what you would find there. So it's sort of a best practice across the board. In essence, that is what Sodexo was proposing to do, okay? Sort of move away from a very liberal and open system that we have in place as it relates to gas passes, and incorporate a system that is a little bit more, that will give us a little bit better control. In essence, that's what it was. We have heard a lot of commentary from the student body against what we intended on doing. And then both Sodexo and my office, we decided to put a break on what we wanted to do this year so that we could make this a part of a dialogue among the Student Senate, student body, Sodexo, and auxiliary service. So we're going to take this to the table this year, and we wanted to have an open dialogue in coming up with a mechanism that makes sense for our institution, okay? We don't need to copy anybody, but it would be wonderful for us to come to the table, have an open discussion, dialogue about what would be the best mechanism in terms of gas pass that could be created and incorporated as part of our new plan structure, okay? So Kyle and I will sort of coordinate this process throughout this year with hopes that we're going to be landing somewhere for the academic year 15-16. Okay, I think for the time being, the system works as it has always worked. And if you have a particular meal plan that gives you 10 swipes a week, you can swipe for yourself 10 times, or you can swipe for yourself and bring in 9 of your friends to eat up your meal for that particular week, okay? That's how the system has worked. That's how it's going to continue to work this year. And we hope to come to a common place for the next academic year. So essentially, that was sort of the push and pull that we have felt over the last couple of weeks. And I'll be glad to answer any kind of questions about this particular topic or anything else related to dining, parking, transportation, and a few other things. Yes.
I just out of curiosity, what initiated the motivation for doing the guest passes versus unlimited swipe deal for any particular time?
Well, we never talked about unlimited swipe.
I don't mean unlimited swipes, but like swiping in your friends, having unlimited guest passes essentially. What initiated the switch to having unlimited guest passes now?
This year, for the first time, we came up with a meal plan called the Unlimited Meal Plan, okay? If you take a snapshot of the Unlimited Meal Plan, what does that mean? That means that you can swipe unlimited times. So as you can see, that particular program or meal plan option gives a student an opportunity to bring in unlimited friends, okay? And it really poses an issue. From an operator, it would be very difficult for us to accept abusive behavior by any student in the unlimited plan if he or she wants to bring in unlimited friends into the dining hall, okay? So essentially, that sort of light up the light bulb, and we felt that it would be really important as we sort of bring about this wonderful unlimited option to our student to also have a controlling feature that would go along with that.
So why not just give the limited guest passes to only the guys or the students with the unlimited meal passes?
We could, okay? We could. And that'll be part of the conversation. What is the right allotment? What kind of mechanism can we put into place that sort of that supports the unlimited meal plan option while giving some options to the lower meal plan holders as well. So again, this is going to be part of our agenda this year and something that I'm looking forward to working with each one of you. Okay.
Really quick before we continue, remember that we are under a queue. Signal to Morgan if you'd like to speak.
Hi. I was just wondering if you had any statistics or figures on how many guests people actually bring per semester, or possibly how many unused meals there are for some of the lower plans?
Let me speak to the unused meals first, okay? And every year, we see the statistics changing a little bit. So it's too soon to tell how things are going to shape up for this year. But in general terms, historically, there is approximately a 75% meal plan participation across the board, okay? So I'm not being specific to the 5 meal plan or a 10 meal plan or unlimited, but historically, 75% of the meals are being utilized while 25% is being forfeited. Now again, broad perspective. Many of you maximize the use of your meal plan, and I do encourage every single one of you to do so, okay? Now, counter to that is that the way that we sort of format our pricing structure for meal plans is that if we were to charge 100% of the meals that we do offer within any plan, the meal plan pricing would be a lot higher than what it is today. So we do take into consideration right up ahead the fact that 25% of the meals are not being utilized as we are pricing those meals, okay? So there is a perception in which we do not do that. But indeed, the way that we come up with our pricing takes into consideration that 25% of those meals are being forfeited. Okay. Your first question?
Was, I guess, out of any person's meal plan, do they use half of their meals on guests? Do they use 10% of their meals on guests? Do you know any way of counting how many meals?
Part of our problem has been we don't have a mechanism. Okay, all along, this is a very good question. All along, we do not have the capability of measuring the very question that you ask. Okay, and that is yet another management feature that we have lacked by not allocating certain meal passes with each meal plan. Right now, we cannot count, we cannot substantiate how how many guests are coming into our dining facility.
So the way I personally first found about the student descent was from a student who had a sister coming into the incoming class and therefore was required to have a meal plan. And so they, among their family, had decided that the daughter the incoming student, would have the meal plan that she needed. She chose the lowest one because she personally didn't have that many meals. And then once a week for family time, the sisters would get together in a meal plan and therefore needed the guest pass. So I don't know statistics on how many students are here as families, siblings, cousins, what have you. But I think there would certainly be an interest. As part of the class, the camaraderie, the community is definitely there for students to share their swipes. So I think that's part of where the dissent comes from.
There's two things here. There is the non-transferability of a meal plan, okay? And we have to be very cautious with that. Much like what happens with tuition and room, if you pay for tuition, are you allowed to bring in your family along with that? No, right? If you're paying for a bed within our residence homes, then the bed is for one person or multiple. And the same thing applies to our dining program. Okay? Again, I've been in the food service industry specific to colleges and universities for over 25 years. Meal plans essentially are non-transferable. If families want to share a meal plan, I can tell you that it's not going to be a model that's going to work. Financially, it's very difficult for an operator if one considers buying one plan for multiple family members. We have to weigh this out. Okay, we have to balance this out. And the non-transferability issue, no one's going to waver on that. I think what we have to come up with is a mechanism of the right allotment for gas passes. Okay, what you asking about it is that can a brother and a brother and a sister transfer meal plans between one another, and that's going to be difficult for us to achieve. I just want to be honest with you, okay? But I think, allocating gas passes that are reasonable within a program, I think we can mediate that quite nicely.
Gavin?
So Sodexo is a service that other universities, colleges use at their dining service halls. Is that? I just want to make sure, RPI is not the only university in the country that's using Sodexo. Or
Sodexo is one of the largest food service, contracted food service provider in the nation.
so, and then leading to my question, was there any research to look at other universities of the size of RPI or close enough to it to see what they do at their campus, to see if they have the program that you're trying to shift towards and if it works?
It's not unusual that we look at our peer institution, I mean, Rensselaer, whether that is for academics or other purpose, auxiliary purpose or dining purpose, we sort of a benchmark with peer institutions, and we have a list of 25 of them with us included in this 25 list, okay? And I have performed a scan of what these 25 peer institutions do as it relates to meal plan non-transferability and also the meal plan gas allocation, okay? And as I pointed out earlier, all of them possess a meal plan structure that is non-transferable, and all of them also have in place mechanism to allocate gas passes for each meal plan, meaning that the higher the meal plan you have, more gas passes you have, you know, increased benefit type of thing. So again, we don't need to copy anybody, but that's what our peer institutions are doing. And I would call that best practice in the industry.
Michael?
I had a question for context. How much does the unlimited plan cost, and how many meals, like, would you say someone has to eat for it to be, like, worth that cost per week?
You're testing me. If I'm not mistaken, the unlimited meal plan is at between $56 and $5,800, $58.80. Okay. And obviously, the unlimited meal plans gives you an amplitude of options. Okay. I think what this plan speaks to is to the way in which American society, especially young adults your age, have come to dine these days. Okay? And the way that most of you do is that you eat small meals throughout the day. You know, the old style of dining that we used to see with breakfast, structured around breakfast, lunch, and dinner, is way of the past. And that's why our dining halls open from 7:30 in the morning all the way till 8 o'clock at night. And at any time of day, this unlimited meal plan will give you an option to get in there and have a bowl of cereal, walk away, come back for a cup of coffee, walk away and have a more substantial meal at that point, all the way through the nighttime when we host the snack hours at the Commons up until 10 o'clock. So it is sort of aligned with the needs of our community and how we have seen this evolve over time. So this meal plan could give many of you an opportunity to graze throughout the day and could be well aligned with many of you. Maybe not all of you, but those of you that sort of like to take advantage of those small meals, that's what this plan is about.
Yeah, sort of. I think a lot of the student pushback was kind of because it was seen as the school, just to me, what other kind of, using the example of how other institutions are doing it, kind of, it seems like the school is becoming less progressive or moving in a way to fit with other institutions that's different from how RPI has worked in the past, which, well, the students seem to like, and kind of seems akin to saying that we have to get rid of the student-run union just because our peer institutions don't have a student-run union. So it's industry best practice to get rid of it. And kind of, I know that it would make life more difficult for certain organizations like the Senate with some of our events where we're going into Commons or doing things, because we have members who are graduate students or live off campus. Some people would use their swipes to swipe them in because, well, if they're only coming into the dining halls literally once a semester to do this, there's no real point in them getting a meal plan. And sort of my second point is, if the school kind of takes into account that only 75% of most people, on average, 75% of swipes are used. If the system is going to be changed so that essentially people can't swipe others in, so more people would have meal plans, is sort of a plan in place or something being worked out so that the price of meal plans would probably be lowered, since you have to have more people having meal plans, which essentially raises the chances that less swipes are going to be used because everybody has to have their own.
Let me start with the second question. And I'm going to go back to a couple of minutes ago where I have stated that the way that we price meal plans takes into consideration those missed meal factors, okay? I wanted to reiterate that. Going back to your first question, I assume full responsibility for the way that in which this message was communicated. I think we misrepresented ourselves in so many ways that we did not have an opportunity to have this important dialogue and discussion with the student body. And I apologize for that. We have sort of taken a step back and would like to sort of engage in this meaningful dialogue moving forward. Okay?
Tina?
I have one quick thing and then kind of a longer question. Is the unlimited meal plan currently in place? Like,
Yeah.
can people choose that?
Yes.
Okay, so like freshmen and sophomores this year had that option.
Actually, the statistic tells me, as of this morning, we have 657 students signed on to the unlimited meal plan.
And so, kind of going with that, you said that the guest swipe policy didn't go into effect, so is there a current like limitation on just those students?
Well, we do not, we have not put any kind of limitations right now, but we're certainly going to have, we're going to have to assess this issue, okay? And we're going to try to deal in such a way that we are kind. But if we see some abusive behaviors with some students participating in that meal plan, inviting a significant number of guests, I don't think we're going to have a conversation. And I would like to use this medium to have that conversation. But obviously, the meal plans, we need to get to a point where we feel comfortable with what's reasonable. Okay? And unfortunately, without an allocation of gas pass, the meal plan makes our program very vulnerable. It's a very good question, one that we have discussed. We do not have a solution as we speak. We do not have a cap as we speak, but we will monitor. You know, here's the thing. The vast majority of our students means well. I don't foresee any problem. You know, I've come in up along the ranks in which I have worked in fine institutions, and Rensselaer being one of them, and I fully trust judgment of our students. There's probably a handful that, you know, we may have an issue, but I have full trust in this community in the way that we're gonna behave, whether that relates to meal plans, academics, or anything else. Okay, and I mean that. And if we do see some abusive behaviors, we're gonna try to face that with that particular individual. You know, just gonna be honest with one another. And that's the policy right now.
Anthony?
So if we do implement a type of guest pass solution,
Yeah.
that would decrease the amount of meal swipes that somebody uses personally because they wouldn't be swiping somebody else in. So would it not also be worth it to examine the options of the number of meal plans per week in a trial to save both students and Sodexo money rather than?
And every year we re-engineer our meal plan structure. You know, this year, for example, we have introduced the unlimited meal plans along with the customizable meal plans for upperclassmen. Okay, and that is a very interesting feature. But the customizable meal plan gives the plan holder 200 meals, and 100% of those meals can be customizable into flex dollars. So whether you wanna move 10, 20, 50% or 100% of those meals within that meal plan structure into flex dollars, you could do that. So in so many ways, each one of you have the power of creating your own meal plan. It's at your fingertips. And that's what that Create Your Own Plan does for upperclassmen students. It's a very exciting time for us. But the energy is that we are in the process in which meal plans can be engineered, just about every year. And we are open to that.
Deacon?
As a freshman, I never got a chance to use guest flights.
Yeah.
However, I do know that among my other freshmen, there is some already dislike the fact that this might be disappearing. Thinking as Sodexo, wouldn't it be almost advantageous as with the unlimited meal plan to offer the option that they can buy a guest pass allotment for the weeks or months of the year? That if someone who has unlimited can't fly in a guest, but can have an allotment that can be
Yeah.
profitable for Sodexo.
I think it would be a huge mistake for us not to have some type of allotment of gas pass, okay? I would not favor that. I think what we're trying to create here is a meal plan structure that gives each one of you value. And the gas pass, gives you that added value that our community seeks, okay? So I think we're gonna get there. I'm not exactly sure what's gonna look like, but I know that's not gonna disappear. We don't want that to happen. Secondly, and additionally, our meal plan structure perhaps gives our students a very robust flex dollar amount in conjunction with the meal swipes, okay? Keep in mind that those flex dollars can also be used for you to pay for meals for your guests, okay? So you have some options here to utilize your flex or to utilize gas meal swipes at any capacity, now and certainly in the future.
Josh?
So 2 questions. One, you mentioned that Create Your Own Plan, you convert as many or as few as you want. It's 200 swipes for the entire year, and it's $8 for conversion.
200 swipes per semester.
Per semester, so 400, and then you convert it at $8 a swipe.
Yes.
Wouldn't, if you converted all 100 of them, that leave you at a loss based on the cost you paid directly for the meal plan?
You got to be careful because there is a fee associated with that you're going to leave it on the table. That has to happen, otherwise, in order to make this program work, we could not make that association of 100% of the cost of the meals into flex dollars. Just trying to be honest with you. So it's something that needs to be considered. But in order for us to build in this level of flexibility that many of you are seeking, and we have certainly done that, there's certainly a cost, and each one of you have to make a judgment of value. Is it worth for me, to make this transition from meal swipes to flex dollars?
And a second question there, with the SPG program that was put in place a few years, is simply to go, allow me to take a meal out from one of the dining halls. Has there ever been consideration in extending that option to Father's or Jasmine's or other places on campus that do offer the same type of options, salads and sandwiches?
I know that Father's does offer simply to go products, but what you're asking is that can they do the swipes at that particular facility? We can take a look at that, John. Certainly, yeah. We can certainly take a look at that. I think, it gives everyone the flexibility in terms of geography, right? Where to pick up those meals. I think that's a very reasonable request. Something for us to take a look at.
Jacob?
Okay, so if the proposal would have gone through, as you guys had planned, aside from just, preventing people from abusing the unlimited plan, what sorts of benefits would Sodexo expect to have from, disallowing people to swipe people in? like the meals are still there, and the person still already paid for them, is it just like the added profit from less meals total being used, or, I guess what was the rationale besides abuse?
Well, I think I have shared with you the fact that from an operator's perspective and management perspective, we are not able to track that feature, that gas feature. Secondly, there's also this new plan structure that we have put into place with the unlimited that makes us vulnerable.
Other than the vulnerability of the unlimited plan, what benefit would Sodexo expect from, having gas passes?
Well, I think, the more value that we add to our meal plans, okay, we do believe that will look favorably within our community and more of you will decide to buy into it. So it is important when we put meal plans together that we are creating added value so that, we can create a much more robust community. And there's a true belief here that within our community that we can have a much more engaging dialogue also outside of the classroom. So it's very important. That's why we believe in the residential system, okay? And equally for our upperclassmen, we have to be very competitive in our approach, okay? Our upperclassmen can go off campus, can cook on their own, and if we are not building those meal plans that have added value or perceived added value, we'd be doing a poor job.
Can you be more specific of what added value you're
The
referring to there?
gas meals.
Okay, so you,
Gas
gas
meals.
meals being good?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, because I thought you were saying gas meals were.
No, gas meals is something very good,
Okay.
flat,
Cool, now
robust,
we're on the
flat
same page.
scholars are very good. Those are added value features within our meal plans.
Remember to limit the back and forth, guys.
Nathan?
Actually, I had a couple, one was a suggestion, for possibly how to deal with the unlimited, and avoid abuse, similar to how wireless companies have dealt with abuse on, data plans, imposing a throttle at a certain amount, so usually it's about 2 gigabytes a month, so you can throttle at something like 23 to 25 meal swipes that only allow one swipe at a time. From there on, once you've used so many amounts, you are abusing for guest use. I'm not sure if that would be easily implemented, but that might be a possibility
Yeah.
to look at. And then also, if only like 3/4 of meal plans a week, meal swipes a week are being used, what was the reason behind adding theoretically a higher tier than the previous 23 that was removed? If only a quarter were not being used each week.
You gotta keep in mind that even though, there's a good number of you that are maximizing meal plans, so I'm talking about in general terms here. So that's why we have this meal plan structure that covers the gamut, so we have to satisfy also those that do eat 25 meals a week. And that's why we have the meal plan structure in place. But we also have 5 meals a week for those that do not need a robust meal plan.
Do you have any data on, like, for last year's 23 plan, how many did actually go use all 23 each week? Like, was it a large percentage?
I don't have it with me,
Okay.
but I can certainly get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shoshana?
I think we're kind of wrapping up, but I just wanted to say thank you for coming to discuss with us. I know that we've thrown out a lot of solutions, so I was thinking more about how we're gonna go forward, and I was wondering perhaps if we were going to kind of lead towards like we did with the CDATA, remember a couple years ago, where CDATA made a bunch of solutions proposed, and then we came in with plan A, B, and C, and then you asked the students for those concrete plans. Are we gonna move forward like that, or we're gonna have focus groups? How do you think we're gonna proceed?
I think, Kyle and I have sort of chatted about this, and we are trying to formulate for the first time in quite some time a hospitality service advisory committee, okay? And your Grand Marshal will sort of guide us through this process, but it is indeed this subset of student leadership that will guide us and also become a connection among, or the medium between auxiliary Sodexo and the student body. So it's important for us to understand that there's going to be this group that will represent you on the table, that will be engaging to solutions and options that will go to a voting session, essentially. But I think it's going to be important for us to gather facts, bring about elements of research to the table, and that will take the shape of outside research and internal research as well, for us to sort of calibrate this mechanism into something that makes sense for us. Okay, so just some thoughts, but essentially this group, will guide us through this process. Right, Kyle?
Yeah, just to clarify, the Hospitality Services Advisory Committee has been discussed since before the beginning of this Senate term. We're hoping to establish it towards the middle of September. I'm going to be meeting with Alex De Silva and with Matt Mueller ideally later this week, early next, to discuss further. I look forward to it personally.
Yeah, that'd be great. And, this would be one topic of discussion. We certainly hope that the advisory committee, will be an active member of coming up with policies, new plan structures that really represents the student body best way we can.
Spencer?
So in your survey of the competitor, or the 25 colleges,
Yeah.
whatever, did anyone put guest swipes at a premium, like some sort of ratio, like you can trade in 2 of your swipes for a guest swipe that week, or?
No, essentially the way that it works is very simple. For each meal plan, there is an allotted number of guest passes. And that runs the gamut, the higher being 10 for the higher plan. And then it sort of, scales down from there. But, it's one of those features that comes along with your plan.
James?
The question I had was asked. I just want to thank you for coming.
No, thank you.
Oh, Lexi?
Same with me, my question was answered.
Very good. Thank you.
Marcus?
There was a concern that a student brought up to me about the minimum requirement that you have when you are a freshman coming onto campus, and then in combination with the restriction for the swiping of meal swipe before the guest pass obviously was brought up. This was a concern. They were wondering what the thoughts were behind making a minimum requirement and then limiting the use of those at the same time.
Well, I'm going to go back and sort of apologize for the student body in the way in which we have gone about with this decision. The format was not the most appropriate, and I apologize for that. So we have taken a step back once again, and we're going to be reevaluating the gas pass feature. Okay, so nothing will change for this coming year. But the first year students, as part of our residential college, it is important for us to understand that the residence halls are not equipped with kitchen facilities. And we wanted to give first year students an ample opportunity to succeed, okay? And that means we don't want our first year students to worry about washing dishes or cooking. We want to give or create a platform that really kind of eludes success, okay, and support. So this institution has created a sort of a structure that enables a first year student to be high achievers. Taking into consideration that our halls are not equipped with kitchens, we wanted to make sure that the plans that we offer enables one to have, multiple meals at a convenient location. So we have created a 2-year residential program that will require first-year students and sophomores to participate in a housing and dining program. Some other institutions believe that students need to go through that 4 years out of their academic life. So I think we are at a happy medium here because you give yourself 2 years within a housing and a dining, and you're ready at that point to make a decision to move off campus, to cook for your own, and many of you choose to do that. But it is part of that process of reaching that point that we value so much our residential component here at SU. Keep in mind, if you're a freshman and if you had access to the 5 meal plan and you chose to participate in the 5 meal plans, you could only eat 5 meals a week. And I don't think that aligns well with the facilities that we offer to our first-year students. So it's a global vision that we have applied to have those types of requirements in place. It's not something that we have just pulled out of our pockets. It is part of this whole structure. It's part of our philosophy that the residential program is just as important as the academic side of it.
I just very quickly wanted to echo a little bit of what's been said, and thank you for your willingness to work with us on this particular topic, especially considering the level of concern that was expressed. It's just great to see the quick turnaround time and your willingness to come in here and talk to us today and work with us in the future.
You know, we are a service organization. We need to listen. Sometimes, as experienced as we may be, we may make some mistakes. And part of being part of this community reminds me every single day of how vibrant our student body is, how open to critical thought each one of you are. And it is exactly that openness that sort of keeps us stable. Okay, so I appreciate the comments that many of you have pushed forth, and at the end of the day, we are here to provide a service that best meets your needs, and we are committed to that.
Tina? I think one of the reasons why a lot of students are irritated is because they feel like they're losing a degree of flexibility with the loss of it. So is there any conversations of extending like the block meal plans to the freshmen and sophomores who don't currently have that option to kind of give them another degree of flexibility back?
Tina, I think we need to sort of put that on the agenda as part of this discussion. I think we are open to those types of dialogues. I think we are open to evaluating some additional options for our first-year students. We should talk about it. I think we're not going to be able to make this change this year, just because it is the structure that we have created, and it comes a point that the timing is not favorable for us to make this decision. But I think for next year, we should talk about it, okay? And I'm open to that, and I know that Sodexo will be open to that as well.
I apologize, I'm not sure about your name at the end.
Max?
Max, thank you.
You mentioned that there are 686 people as of this morning who are currently enrolled in the plan.
657.
657, sorry. Do you know, well, first off, which grades are offered in the unlimited plan?
The unlimited plan is offered to any cohort.
And if you were to rank every single meal plan you offer, how popular would you say they are?
We have, as of this morning, 3,179 meal plan holders. Okay? So 657 divided into 3,179. 20%. I'm not that good with math. So, and the majority of the unlimited meal plan holders are first-year students. Okay, the vast majority.
And finally, just borrowing from you to question statistics, but you mentioned that trends show people eating 5 meals a day, small meals. But we haven't had an unlimited option before, and a quarter in general meal plans are going unswiped. Does that fit with that statistic? Because 5 meals a day, 7 days a week would imply 35 meals. And it seems like our current plan couldn't have been conducive to that.
You've got to keep in mind that every single meal plan that we offer has a flex component, okay? So that flex dollar component also enables each one of you to graze at any time of day. And many of you choose to utilize those flex dollars within our retail facilities.
So you consider in dining hall swipes flex usage?
As well. That's sort of a part of that mix. You know, each meal plan has that interface with flex dollars. So we have built in that level of flexibility for you to be within our dining halls as well as our retail facilities. And that is a wide trend that we see throughout the industry.
It just seems to me like there might be a slightly different connotation between retail facilities, for example, snacking and going to a meal hall. But once again, thank you for coming and holding this discussion.
Josh?
Again, as everyone says, thank you again for addressing this so quickly. Being a little bit familiar with Blackboard from working the register appears to have the ability to maintain a guest swipe allowance via either a period, a day, a week, or a semester. Have you looked into it all if you were to do a specific guest swipe allowance, how it would work? Would it be something on a by period basis? Would you have a specific allotment per semester? Would it depend on the meal plan entirely? Has that been looked into at all?
I think the current system that we have in place, again, Blackboard, would enable or has the flexibility to track gas passes per week, per quarter, or per semester. It's how we dictate to the system how we want it to track. Okay, so I think the system is robust enough that we'll be able to support our needs however we decide.
And a quick follow-up. Does it allow the guest swipes to be independent of the meals? Could you have a 23 meals per week allotment regular and 2 guests, or would it have to be part of the same regular allotment?
Say that again?
So you have, let's say we're on a 15 meal per week plan, so I can go in and swipe 15 times. Let's say I had 2 guest swipes per week. Would that be additional and separate from the 15, so I can go in 15 times and bring 2 friends?
Indeed. The gas meals would be set up, in any case, as it is now, above and beyond your weekly allotment.
Conrad?
Are there any certain qualifications to use a guest swipe? Is it someone, I think really regular or just single guest? Or if a student runs out of meals prep per week, are they able to use a guest swipe on themselves?
Yeah. All one needs to do is have, I wanted to use a gas swipe, and at that point, one would. Okay? But keep in mind, this year, the way that it works, we really don't have a gas allocation. Okay? So you have your 15 meals, that's what you have, okay? So
Nathan?
you're not gonna be able to exceed that number of meals per week that you have signed up.
You had spoken on the whole freshman and sophomore required to have a meal plan. What is the reasoning behind requiring all sophomores that live in RPI Housing to have meal plans when some may live further than some who live off campus, if there's something like Rhapsody, something like that? And in addition to that, those facilities actually have full kitchens that would be conducive to the students cooking for themselves. And also, in addition to that, the sophomore meal plan limit is, the lowest you can have is 10 swipes per week. So the 5 that seems helpful for someone who may live off campus isn't even available to someone who actually could be further from someone who may live on something like 14th Street. So is there a reason behind that, or is it just?
I think our housing program has evolved. I mean, if you kind of look back up until 3 years ago, a good portion of our East Campus were supported by graduate students, okay? So up until 3 years ago, our inventory of apartments with full kitchen was not as ample as it is today. And I think that has been a distinct difference, whereby now sophomores can very well land an apartment-style housing on campus that they didn't used to be able to 3 years ago. I go back to the residential philosophy of the Institute, okay? We do believe that it is very important for the success of first year and second year students to participate in our residential program. And that means living on campus as well as dining on campus, creating a community within our dining halls, within our residential facilities. It is of great importance to us. I think, residence life and student life can speak a lot more eloquently than I can on the residential requirements. I have a business orientation. I would not deny that. But, there's a lot of value in having that discussion with our student life component of the Institute. But I can tell you, and I share with you, the philosophy, the general global philosophy that the Institute has as it relates to the residential aspect.
All right. Now, Nathan was the last one in our queue. Before we finish, I had one final question, which is just that plans are currently listed as non-transferable on the Hospitality Services website. We've been a little back and forth about this, so I'm curious, which is the case? Was this language that was changed due to the considered change this summer, or is this the official policy that's been in place?
Non-transferability we have never implied a change, okay? Our meal plans has never been a transferable plan, meaning that you buy a plan under your name, that plan is yours, and that plan should not be shared, okay? You should not give your ID card to a colleague of yours to enter the dining hall with your meal plan, okay? First off, we're gonna try to identify by the picture ID if you are the plan holder. It has always been like that. What we are talking about here is the issue of gas passes, the gas feature. We can go back 5 years ago. Our plans have always been non-transferable.
All right, thank you very much.
Very good.
Give them a round of applause, guys. Next week. Thanks again for coming in to talk to us tonight.
Thank you.
So, moving on, I'm going to postpone Tina's presentation on digital resources in our binders in the interest of time, so we're not here all night. I'd like to move towards our main motions. We have 2 appointments on the table tonight. One was listed on the agenda, the other has been added following a conversation between myself and Melanie Totis, our R&E chair. So first off, The Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate confirms the Grand Marshal's appointment of Shoshana Rubenstein to the position of Senate Executive Board Liaison effective immediately. So moved by Jessica Krajewski, seconded by Marcus Flowers. To give a brief background on this, Tyler Cohen was appointed to this position last year. However, Tyler transferred, thus the position is now vacant. So, do we have any dissent? Seeing none, Shoshana, would you like to give a few words?
My name is Shoshana Rubenstein, and I've worked on the Senate ever since I came to RPI. I don't specifically have experience on the UAR, but I am highly involved with the union, and so I was considered for this position. Last year I spent my part-time work in the union administration office, so I worked directly with those staff there and dealt with a lot of club officers as they come in with questions and concerns and guided them through that. I also participate in my free time in union activities like the 125th anniversary coming up. So I'm very involved with the union. I love the union, and seeing this vacancy, I just wanted to further dedicate my time. Are there any questions?
Queue's open.
Gavin?
I'm not going to question your time management skills because they're probably perfect, but just making sure that adding this onto your table, it's not going to be too much for you.
So I am a busy person. Everyone who knows me knows that. I am taking a normal average course load for a senior engineer. I'm on the Senate, which, as you know, is the committee structure I've done every single year and handled just fine. And if this appointment is confirmed, I will not be participating in dance team this year. Don't be sad. I love the dance team. I'm gonna go to their shows. I'll let them wash my car, and we'll raise money, and we'll be a happy
Let
family.
them wash your car.
We do a car wash every year.
Just think about those words.
All right, let's keep to the queue. Any more questions, guys? Okay, seeing none, we move to vote. All in favor? All opposed? All right, congratulations, Shoshana. You're appointed. Motion passes 14-0. Okay, so our second appointment. The Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate confirms the Grand Marshal's appointment of Paul Illory as the student. Illory. After a year, I still messed that up. I'm so sorry. Confirms the Grand Marshal's appointment of Paul Illory as the Student Senate Representative to the Rules and Elections Committee, effective immediately. As a little background, RNE draws membership from a number of different union organizations. It is our duty as a Senate to vote and approve on that representative. Do we have any dissent? Seeing none, Paul, do you have a few words?
I'm Paul. This is my second year as a senator, and I just wanted to work on R&E since kind of it's one of the more important committees in terms of organizing the elections and the setup and preparation for them, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, queue's open. Do we have any questions?
James?
There's no chance that you're running for GM, is there?
Bruh.
I think that's a yes.
Shoshana?
How much sleep do you need a week?
Depends.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we move to vote. All in favor?
I abstained.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes 15-0. This will conclude our main business for tonight. A few final points before we wrap up. I'm going to be working with cabinet members to compile a Senate survey across the next few weeks. I'm hoping to distribute this survey before the end of September, as the information that we gain will be useful for a number of our different projects. While the committees have not formally decided their projects yet, if any of you have ideas about questions that would be valuable to ask the student body at this point, please talk to one of the different chairs or to myself. Committee and council requirements, as all of you should know, senators are required to either chair one committee or be a member of two. In addition, senators are required to be a liaison to their class council. I am extending this requirement to appointed members as well, in terms of at least the committees. Class councils, you guys don't have to worry about that. But on the note of class councils, I am expecting senators to honor this. If you have any conflict or any concern in that area, talk to me and I'll be willing to work with you. Just remember, go to your class councils, work with them. That's an important part of your role here to maintain communication. So the committee's meeting times have not been finalized. I'm going to be talking with the cabinet members and we'll be getting a final list of times out to you before the end of the week. All committee meetings will start next week. So senators, some of you I spoke over the summer about which two committees you're going to start in. Others I haven't. Feel free to shop around and try the different committees, see what fits you the best. And finally, Hockey Line is out in public. The rules were released 2 Sundays ago now. If any of you are interested in forming or joining a team, please fill out the forms at the end of the guide and turn them into myself or to the union admin office. Remember that the starting positions will be determined by the order in which forms are filed, so get them in early if you want to start with a good spot. Starting on the September 2nd, we'll be tracking positions. You must maintain one member in line between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. or risk moving down a spot. Make sense? Okay, that concludes my reports. We're going to move on to our committee reports, rules and elections.
Okay, so we have our first meeting tomorrow, and we're going to be voting on the handbook, just passing it, and then hopefully next week we can get it passed by the Senate, because freshman elections will be September 22nd and the 25th. So as soon as we get the handbook passed, they can start campaigning. And then we will also be working on a referendum template procedure and handbook. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Gavin, communication.
Yeah, so I actually do have a lot. I'll keep it brief but concise. So I've been in contact with Holly Nelson, who works here as a communication specialist at RPI, and she's been helping me figuring out a few structure ideas. But first I want to talk to the current Senate, you guys, and some past members, about issues that you may have had or things that you want to work on for the future of communications. And most importantly, meeting with the communication chairs. So I want to try to, the past communication chairs, so figure out how you guys, hear what you guys did in the past. Helping out with Hockey Line, if you want me to. And talking to Jasmine, right, of Hockey Line? Yeah, so since that's happening September 2nd, starting Tuesday. Meeting with you, of course, Cal.
Yes.
We didn't do that. Apologize for all this summer. That was crazy hectic. And just overall, organizing the different social media platforms that communications can take part and help out at RPI. But going back to the structure ideas, it's going to be overall goal-oriented, but it needs to be comprised of people who are good with Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or helping out with website design, updating information so people are actually trafficking to that site and reading it. And maybe figuring out if you want email templates, so if anyone uses that to faculty, staff members, something's already set. And just looking at how is communication actually held at the school, what's the strongest form, and that's about it. So it's a lot of just big topics, and they all branch. So yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a meeting time set up for this week or next week?
For the committee? No, not yet. Next week.
Hang around for a second after the meeting, we'll talk and sync up on a time.
We'll have to talk later. I have to leave soon. I apologize.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Okay.
Yeah, I apologize about that.
I'll shoot you an email.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, so academic affairs.
Okay, so academic affairs kind of went through a bit of a change from last year. Last year was consolidated just to one person. We're hoping to re-expand the committee this year. And with that comes a lot more work. So one of the first things we want to do is we want to take care of some of the old business. Some of the old business include a syllabus catalog for the courses. We're hoping to wrap that up and then to take it even further, and we're hoping to see what level of integration we can have with the course listing, so that way when you look at a course you can see more information about it at one point. We've got quite a few other projects going, so I'll try and keep it very brief. We have a project where we're working on academic representation within departments so that students are working on curriculum changes mainly about their own curriculum. So it wouldn't be chemistry majors talking about industrial engineering, it would be chemistry majors talking about the structure for chemistry. And it would be BMEs talking about structure for BMEs. And so that's the project we're working on. We are looking to get some help from the honor societies, and we have a list organized and we're going through that. We're going to speed this up actually even more. Research the catalog, we're looking for a way to organize and pose to students the opportunities for research on campus. Research on campus is a big deal for students, especially with very different career paths, so that they can learn more about the practical applications of what they're learning. So we're looking for a way to organize that. Another project we're working on is a mentoring pool. This is to potentially extend ALAC-like services to higher level courses. So ALAC typically cuts off at about sophomore level courses. If we can find a way to apply it to junior level courses, we have a couple of models in mind right now, and so that's something else we're working on. We're working on promoting ALAC in general because ALAC is a great resource for students. However, most students don't tend to take advantage of it, oftentimes through just not knowing how it works or that it's even there. So we're trying to promote ALAC to give students more support because we feel that it's a great resource, and it's not that it's broken, it's that it's just not used. Another thing that we are working on, I think this is the last thing, is we're looking into the potential for changing the drop deadline. This is something I'm working on with Kyle and Professor Gerhardt. We are looking into information on that. And right now we are looking to see how professors typically organize their course structures. So we're going to look more into that before we consider modifying the deadline, so we can look at it from both ends of the problem to see if there's some trend that we can find that will give us more information on how to tackle this. All right, that's it.
Do you have a meeting time?
Yes. All right. Meeting time right now we have set for Wednesdays 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. in 3502, although this week it will be in 3210, I believe. I'm sorry for anybody who received an email that said otherwise.
Okay, all right, thank you. Before we continue, please remember to try to keep your report brief. We're nearing the end of our time, and I'd like to wrap up quickly. Shoshana, UAR.
So the executive board meets this year on Thursdays, 8:30, 10:30. Shellnut? Okay, so Shellnut. This week there won't be a meeting because we'll all be attending the activities fair. Lots of fun. Please stick around afterwards. We always clean up and then we get free pizza for helping. It's really fun. You get to flip the tarps and then fold them up.
It's actually really fun though.
She's not lying.
Other than that, there's actually a woman from a consulting organization. They're looking at our retail services, specifically the RPI bookstore downstairs and the computing bookstore in the VCC. So there are two focus groups going on. I attended one today, and we gave a lot of great feedback. And then there's another focus group tomorrow. She's going around to all the services, speaking with the staff, speaking with some students as they're buying different things. So there'll be a lot of great feedback there, and we hope to generate more revenue because when we bring in revenue for our retail services, it decreases the amount for the activity fee.
Okay, thank you, Shoshana. Michael, FSC.
So we also have a lot of projects coming up this year, so we need a lot of people to join. So if you're interested, I sent out a when is good to people that I talked to that were interested, but so right now we're looking at either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday at 8 p.m., but we're not going to do Friday at 8 p.m.
That's a good choice.
Tuesday or Wednesday at 8 p.m. is like the times that I'm thinking of, one of the two. So if you want to be in the committee but can't make it, please let me know. Otherwise, yeah, if you want to join the committee in general, you can ask me for the when is good or something. So I have your name. That's it.
Okay. Lexi, Student Life.
Okay, hi everyone. So the plan for this year is to introduce some new projects. As a lot of you know, we want to start improving the residence halls, and I'm hoping that we can get some kind of collaboration going with Res Life on this project so that we can improve it in various ways. We also are looking at opening up more opportunity for part-time jobs on campus so that it's just not for work study, and opening up more for people that aren't offered work study in case they want to work a job and make more money. Another project we are considering is, let's see, I'm reading off my bad email. established an online scheduling system for the counseling center. This was something in SLC that did not occur last year that I want to bring up again, because I did see quite a few comments on the survey related to dissatisfaction at counseling center hours. Then lastly, I am opening up the possibility of bringing another commercial cafe or eatery to campus, as last year's survey had a lot of complaints about not having decent places to go on campus. And just to wrap things up, we're still continuing the on-campus pharmacy projects as well as the flat rate taxi, which we just got contacted by a taxi company, so that was exciting. So we'll be moving forward with that, and anybody that was involved in those projects, I'd love for you to continue with those so we can get a good start. And SLC time meetings are 6 to 7 right now, starting next week in the student government suite. Wednesday. Please come. I'd love to see all you guys there, possibly.
Okay, thank you. Gabe, WebTech.
Alright, so this summer was a pretty busy summer for us. We ended up virtualizing all of our web services on new server hardware, so this will let us be able to maintain our services more effectively and copy them over in the event of hardware failure and run backups more easily. Also, I actually worked on Flagship Docs this summer. It was extremely outdated. It was started around 2010, and it was a very old version of Rails, so I rewrote most of it. And right now I'm in the testing phase. I can send out an email if people want to give it a try and see if they can break it and let me know what happens. Yeah, also we spun up a VM for Concerto 2. It is currently being tested in the SGS screen. We've had some errors though with that and it's been crashing. So we're going to be looking into that, and as soon as those are solved, we can continue deploying it on the rest of the screens on campus.
All right, quick question for you. Do you know when document uploading will be fixed for Flagship?
That will be fixed with the new version, which we've already pushed onto docs.dev.rpiwtg.com.
Okay.
It'll be shortened to docs.rpiwtg.com. So if you want to give it a try there, we'll have all the documents migrated over once we're ready to put it into production.
All right, thank you. Tina, you have a report.
I just want to touch a little bit, this technology thing keeps getting pushed back. For those of you who are new to sign up, we use Google Drive for everything. So if you use an email other than your RPI email address for your Drive, and you want it shared with that email, let me know after the meeting so I can get you set up with that, so that you can start seeing everything on the Drive.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, our constituent reports, Grad Council.
Just two things. We have a town hall meeting regarding the significant fee increase. I believe that's on Wednesday the 5th, Government's Corner. And hopefully next week, after our meeting of the Grad Council, we will have 2 senators in a row for Senate approval.
Okay, sounds great. IFC?
Alright, so I've got a few dates for you guys. We've got to meet the Greeks on the 27th, which is this Wednesday. Every Thursday we have Letters for Letters, which we have a table in the DCC. And you can also send pictures in on Twitter. Crows and Delta Tau Delta will be hosting a blood drive this Thursday as well. And the IFC Rush begins this Friday, 29th. That's it.
Shoshana, you had a question for Spencer.
Oh, how did you tell the grad students about the town hall? Because maybe they haven't checked their e-bills?
There's been several emails sent by the Grad Council in the last couple of weeks.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, Panha?
Okay, so go off of what James was saying, pretty much, it's exactly the same things on our end. Our recruitment starts on the 11th, and from there, also later tonight, there is a panel meeting.
All right, thank you very much. So before we wrap up, just remember in the future, try to keep your reports brief so that we can get out of here quickly. But great job, everyone. I'm glad we're off to a good start. Any unfinished business, new business, questions from the press? Okay, meeting is adjourned.